What is leadership? According to the United States Army, leadership is the 7 core values of a good soldier, with the acronym of LDRSHIP standing for loyalty, duty, respect, selfless service, honor, integrity, and personal courage. My purpose today is to inform you why Robert Gould Shaw is deserving of this great honor of standing at Beacon Hill in Massachusetts. Because like many Americans who may have visited Boston and seen the statue, or have perhaps just seen the movie Glory, we've all been very curious, I'm sure, as to who this man really is and why is he important to our history. After today, you will be more informed about who Robert Gould Shaw is and why he is so deserving of this honor. I will explain 3 important stepping stones which led to this moment in our lives and his. Number 1, we will discuss the proclamation by the Confederate Congress, which outlined the consequences of leading a Negro troop. Then we will discuss the 7 Army Corps values. And then last, we will talk about Shaw's final act of honor or valor, which earned him this right. Now that we have established our path, let's begin with our discussion about the Confederate Congress. Despite the rest of his life, Robert Gould Shaw was strong-willed and determined to always take a risk. He had narrowly escaped his life in Antietam, Maryland, where he had been grazed by a bullet. But then he was approached by Frederick Douglass and asked to take control of the 54th Massachusetts Colored Regiment, to which he humbly obliged. Then in 1863, while he was training these men, the Confederate Congress issued a proclamation stating that any white officer taken in control of Negro troops would be summarily put to death, because they would be deemed as inciting servile insurrection, which was a slave uprising. Likewise, the men would also be killed, whether they had been free men or slaves. Despite the risk, Shaw chose to continue on. Now that we know the risks involved, let's explore a couple of the ways in which he encompassed the core values. Remember what leadership stands for. And remember this above all else. His parents were wealthy abolitionists. Already he had a duty to fight for equality amongst all races. He demonstrated his true faith and allegiance at one point when he was told that his men would receive less pay than all the white officers just because of their color. At that point, Shaw decided he would not accept any pay until everybody was paid equally. Then, recognizing their dedication to service and hard work, he promoted his men to the ranks of NCO or non-commissioned officer because he so deeply respected them. Shaw's actions were all a testament of great personal courage, especially when he chose to lead despite all consequence. Now that we know what the acronym leadership really means, let's discuss his final act of heroism. Remarkably, Shaw with saber drawn led the 54th up the garrison of Fort Wagner, and ultimately he lost 281 of his men doing this, but his last words were, "Onward 54th," as described by his men, to which they were inspired to invade that fort despite the fact that they had been severely undermanned. His body was found amongst the sand with all his men, and rather than being sent home for proper burial, his family asked that the body stay behind because it is what their son would have wanted, to be buried alongside the men he so deeply respected. In conclusion, Robert Gould Shaw's actions are what make him a hero worthy of this honor to be placed in Beacon Hill in front of the Capitol, where he will always be remembered for what he has done. First, I discussed the risk Shaw took in volunteering, just narrowly escaping death and then taking further risks to his life. Then we discussed how he exemplified the core values of leadership. And then finally, I discussed his final acts, which were basically a summary of his Army Corps values. He had deeply respected his men to the fact that he accepted their fate alongside them, and his allegiance was made permanent through his burial to show equality both in life and in death. If ever you find yourself in Boston, I hope you would take a moment to really look at this statue, which was built in 1884 by Augustus St. Gaudens, and I hope you will see truly how inspiring it is, and maybe you'll even want to read Shaw's Civil War letters, which are kept at Harvard Library right there in Massachusetts.